My phone was giving me a weird. Anyway, I decided that I'm going to do what I keep saying I'm going to do, and I'm going to turn on the live while I've got battery, and I've got 66% battery, so that's plenty of battery to talk to you while I get ready this morning and while I walk over to Panera and maybe even just leave it on and be one of those weird stalker types in Panera and just see how the day goes. Because I'm gonna put you on my knee while I put my gloves on, and then I'm probably gonna move you. So, you know, I understand that nobody's watching live, but for the future audience, this is going to be disorienting. I do have something to talk about, but before I do that, I do want to remind you that I don't get a lot of comments and I don't get a lot of conversation on Twitter. So, come find me on Twitter. It's X now, is what the savvy people call it. I'm not trying to be savvy. My last girlfriend, months, only a few months before we broke up, we had been together. We had lived together for damn near, damn near 4 years. My hair is only going to get dirtier. So, actually, real quick, I'm sorry that you have to watch this, but also I'm kind of not because on top of the stories that I already have queued up to tell you, um, it is important for me to remind you that one of the things that I am doing is um, I am reminding you of the trouble that other homeless people go through by living an ascetic life as a homeless person. So I am a religious as seat. Give you some time to think about what that word means to you and whether you need to leave a comment to ask me to describe what asceticism is again. For whatever reason, YouTube won't actually publish the videos I make with your. So for shorts, it offers to let me sticker in comments that are made. For whatever reason, it won't actually publish those when I make those videos. Um, I don't know what that's about. But so I've already got a lot of plates spinning. This is why I'm sure that as much as I am certain Justy likes me because I'm moderately attractive, Justy also fucking hates me because talking to me has got to be a nightmare from her perspective. Just encouraging me to freely associate and then trying to keep all of the threads together, especially when I hadn't been seeing her every week. And so now I don't even remember what I was talking about on any level. And that's just how this works. And then that's how my journals and my writing go too. And so this is how my brain goes from concussions. So I'm a religious ascetic, and I'm trying to show you what other homeless people go through. I actually have it pretty good, but I don't have it pretty good. And this is leading into what I actually wanted to talk about. I don't have it pretty good because of your donations. I don't have it pretty good because of D-Rock alone. You understand? I don't even have it pretty good because of Madge not canceling his Patreon subscription the moment I became homeless. Um, I have it pretty good because I was prepared for this, because I knew this was coming, because I knew she was unstable, because I knew that it had taken her 3 years, almost 4 years, to learn certain character traits about me, to even bother to learn my character traits, my trait characteristics. And so I got into a conversation on Twitter yesterday, and this is why I brought up my Twitter, is I do a lot of my idle downtime looking for arguments and looking for comments that I can do that are only 120 characters long, and dialogues I can get in that are only 120 characters long. Because the short form is how you, my prospective future audience, actually engage with everything. You engage with everything in the short form, and you really don't understand how clipped and terse and really how much you're cheating yourself out of real conversation with only 250 characters or whatever it is on Twitter. Because if you actually pay attention to the trait characteristics of how that app behaves, nobody scrolls up to remind themselves what the conversation was about. So after about two comments, after about two subtweets, you're just lost. You're not even talking about the same thing anymore. Now you're just talking about yourselves and each other because you don't scroll up to reread because you're not literate. You understand? Rereading is literacy. Reading something again and again and again and again, reading it over and over and over is high literacy. Reading lots of different things but not understanding what you've read is not being literate. It's reading for really it's reading for kudos, it's reading for clout, it's reading for the attention of having read. What you want to do is you want to read broadly and you want to read well. You want to read lots of different genre by lots of different artists and authors and artists and lots of different categories. And then you want to understand what you've read by talking about it, sometimes in long form, like what I have done in the past many times. And so, what I'm trying to tell you is, I'm trying to also demonstrate for you what an aesthete could be for you. So I think that there's an impulse in my audience to think that what I'm doing is urban camping or suburban camping, maybe. But I'm not camping. I'm homeless. I just sold all of the stuff that I had acquired by being a good boy, read my journals, with this woman. She gave me gifts when she had been heinous to me and I hadn't retaliated anyway. She would give me guilt gifts. And so I just sold all my guilt gifts except for this phone. Now, this phone is a guilt gift because she made me sell my other phone. I had a Note 9 that was basically my whole life because the last time a woman basically treated me in this way, a woman betrayed me in this way, and my life fell apart, I went and bought that Note 9 and I bought it and it was mine and it was my whole life was wrapped up in that Note 9 and having owned it and I used it like I'm using this phone. And she convinced me to sell it to get this phone and put my life in her hands in a very real way, and she did exactly what I knew she would do. About 4 months later I was homeless. Anyway, that's not important. It's important for you to know because it's the truth. But it's not important for you to know because I want you to retaliate against her because I want um, guilt offerings from you. I tell you because I took all of those guilt gifts that she gave me, all those times that she felt bad for having done something absolutely heinous to me and gave me a gift. I sold them all. I took them and I pawned all of them. And with the proceeds, I bought everything in this tent except for my liner and this really nice sleeping bag. D Rock did buy those. I would be uncomfortable but fine without them. I think he doesn't understand that. I think he thinks that, yes, he brought me up into another, and I explained this to him. He brought me up to another class level of comfort, not of luxury. Compared to other homeless people who are living on the street and don't even have a sleeping bag, yeah, fine, I'm wealthy. Yes, that's kind of another one of my goals. I'm trying to show you exactly how much money it buys what in the United States because I have a lot of people who watch me and think that all Americans, because all Americans are rich, from a world uh, financial kind of understanding, the money that I make in a day would make me a king in Mexico, for example, would make me an emperor in parts of Africa. There are parts of Africa that live on $1 a day, and Walter and I were talking about this on Twitter. The food that I eat can't be served to me for fewer than $10 a day. So I know that I'm living very well. And so I'm very thankful for that. And I make time to thank the people who make that possible for me. You understand? You're not one of the people who makes that possible for me. Viewer, future, or otherwise, even if you know me, you're not making this comfort possible for me. The only person who makes any kind of comfort possible for me is Magic Shadow by being there for me to talk to me on Twitter and we text. But I give that back to him by helping generate revenue for his Twitch. Do you understand how this works? That everything is connected. Everything that comes in goes out, and then everything that you put in comes back to you in a real way. And so there was a third thing I was circling around, and I see that somebody has joined me. So hello, I'm in my tent. This is a good time to. Oh, and they've left because people don't always like when you do that. And so I don't exactly remember what the third thing that I was going to say was, but it's what I wanted to talk about. I do remember. Hello, Josiah Sage. Thank you for joining. Um, it no longer says that you're watching me, but thank you for joining, and thank you for saying hello. In that brief time, I hope that that means that you're bookmarking this to come back and listen to me, because you could tell that I was in a roll, and then I I I broke me up. If you watch this, you did not break me up. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for the hello. What I was going to say is, I think when people watch me, I think when people watch my shorts, I think when people engage with me and they say things to me, they do very frequently say things to me like, get a job. When I talk to other homeless, when I talk to other people in my situation, what they say to me is, what you don't want to do is get a job before you have Section 8 housing. That's what it's called in Ohio. Or at least that's what it's called in Zanesville. Section 8 housing is basically welfare housing. They're like, don't get a job before you have the housing, because what will happen is you won't be able to get housing. Then you'll have this job, but you'll still be going to wherever you're going. If and then you have to, and they want to tell me, no, 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 it's not a sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice. People who have houses, people who have used this method to get A, sober, and B, to get homed. They get they go to the Salvation Army or another church. Hello, Josiah. Did I say your name wrong? I don't know how to get my chat back up. But yeah, what he said to me is that I won't get approved. If I have the job, I won't get approved. I'll be making too much money. That's right. And so what I've had people say this to me, that they're like, well, don't go that route. Don't go the get the housing, get the assistance, get the food, then get the job, because then what you're going to do is you're going to minimize what you do in your life, so you don't lose the free housing. And it's like, you don't understand. I have free housing, my friends. I've already bought and paid for my home. Okay, so one of the things that millennials are doing is millennials are en masse losing their minds about the facts that they're never going to be able to buy a house. False. You're never going to be able to buy land on which to buy or build a house. Fuck the house. The house is doesn't matter. See, the woman that I was just evicted by, she did the thing where she graduated university and then bought a house. And then she's sitting in this house, and now she can't get a job because she's got this house and there's no fucking work around where she bought the house. Why'd she buy the house? Because it was cheap. Why was it cheap? Because a bunch of people had recently died there, and it had gone into foreclosure. Okay, so yeah, you're doing better than other millennials. You've bought the house, but you're not doing better than anybody. You don't have a fucking job now that you've got the house. So hear me out. I own my home. My home is severely at risk. It has exactly no security. See, what you get out of a brick and mortar house, like with a brick and mortar store, is nobody can throw rocks through your home. No one's going to throw rocks through your home. No one is likely to throw rocks through your home. If your community is devolved to the point that people are literally throwing rocks through each other's homes, you're talking about a Gran Turismo situation, and that movie exists. I don't need to do a video essay about the degradation of human communities, when really I didn't mean to be talking to another human being. Thank you for being here. This is cool. Um, what I wanted to talk about is that I own my home. I have permission to be where I'm at. So I don't have a stake in this land. I don't want a stake in this land at all. That's something that Cole's figured out. I don't want to own the land. I don't want to take it from them. Um, but if I get the job now, I'm going to stink, which means that I'm going to have to surrender my time and my person to the Salvation Army or True Life. both of them, if I'm going to use their shower facilities, want me in the building. And that's a sacrifice of my time that gives me a lot of anxiety, because that's the exact situation that I've just lived in for the last 3 or 4 years. See, something that people don't understand, because I just don't talk about it, is that I couldn't leave that house. I was terrified because she had done this to me before, and she told me she was going to do this to me. That if I just left, like if I went for walks, or if I just wanted to just go walk to Kroger, or if I wanted to get a job, she was going to change the locks on me. She was just going to lock the door behind me and not let me back in the house. And now I've got the job, but I'm homeless. And something that I don't think people really think about when they tell me go get a job is that I'm not panhandling. I'm busking. I'm not sitting on the side of the road with a "I'm homeless, please help, everything buys booze" sign. First of all, I don't drink. Second of all, only $50 every 3 weeks goes to weed. And I think that's more than reasonable and legal in my city. Anyway, the get a job process for me is also a kind of humiliation, because what you have to understand is this has become my job. I don't put 8 hours into YouTube like other YouTubers, and I don't make sure that I overproduce my material and that I overwork because I need to prove to a already paying audience that watched me go from doing this part time while I had a full time job to full time, because I invested in a house before I had the revenue already baked in from my audience, because I made risky financial bets on myself, which I haven't done. Proof is I live in a tent. I haven't made a risky bet. And insofar as my money isn't at risk, and my ability to maintain this lifestyle that I'm fronting to get rich people to believe that I can manage my money, I I am not against getting a job. But what you have to understand is there are people who've told me that they really like what I'm doing. They really believe in my work, and I've actually got myself too warm, so you get to look at my dirty hair. There are people who've told me they really believe in my ability to do this. There are people that have told me that I could be special. And then those people have ultimately ghosted me, but whatever. When you hear things like that, you start to believe the things you tell yourself. And one of the reasons I started doing this is because I was telling myself, wait a minute, I could be as good as these people. So, like my commentary videos on Dark Brandon, or on what's his name, the skeptic guy that has gotten really popular. He's not a skeptic, he's an atheist. I've done videos on, and I've done videos on Jordan Peterson. And then I don't follow them up, and people see that not follow up as not being willing to show up to the same job day after day after day after day. But what you don't understand is that if you show up to the same market every day with a product that nobody's buying, you're losing money in transportation costs. You're losing money in what's it called when you go to work and then you come back, commuting costs. People don't really think in this way, but every calorie I spend either in my battery on my phone or in my body to move me, or to do anything, to spend any amount of time doing anything, costs money. And Walter, my buddy on Twitter, he follows me here and we engage a little bit on YouTube as well, but um, he made a good point that it costs someone money. And I wasn't saying that I eat for free of charge for other people. I'm saying that I was explaining to him that I have gone weeks at a stretch where the only food I have eaten is food that I got from Christ's table, either the food that was being served at the kitchen, or like this bread, like I have this loaf of bread. And so I got some donations earlier in the week from people, because I was having a severe anxiety attack in the Panera that I hang out in, and that's where I'm going next. I have a third bullet point that I want to talk about before I put my shoes back on. Yeah, so Josiah in my comments is going to be this is another thing is he missed me saying that I'm trying to show normal people that being homeless doesn't also make you not human. It actually makes you kind of more human. Um and he explained that he's in the comments. I don't think I'm saying anything that's out of school by repeating the comment. He said he was homeless for 4 years and he understands the need to save calories. You really do, because it's fucking cold and it actually costs calories to generate body heat. And I've you would think that's crazy. You'd think, "Oh, your body just generates." Yeah, okay. But I've tested this in the mornings. The mornings where it's cold, I'll eat a couple pieces of bread and then go out and I'll be warm. And then I'll be like, well, maybe it wasn't the bread. And then I won't eat the bread and I'll be fucking cold. Cannot generate no matter amount of moving. And then I don't have the energy to like sing while I'm walking. So I'm just cold. And so the calories. I get into arguments with people who want to have these bourgeoisie diets that um uh, carbs are really bad for you. And that cannot be possible because something like 8 or 9 thousand years ago, the world was almost entirely dominated by people who were living on an entirely grain diet. And the world was almost perfectly egalitarian because of it. For about 3,000 years, this happened. And the closer we look to the origin of that um, agrarian society, the further back that egalitarianism goes. So there is something to bread and common commonness. Having There's something to Jesus when he talks about breaking bread and that making us in common. There's something very real to that. And meat sets us apart because there are choice cuts. There are better cuts of meat. But if everybody is eating the same pumpernickel rye bread at the table, everybody in the room is eating the same everybody in the city, everybody as far as you can conceive away from you is eating the same pumpernickel rye bread for dinner, that connects you in a very real way. And so I'm not threatening to quit when I say this. A lot of creators are constantly leveraging quitting to get money. I see it all the time. I get blocked because people think I'm leveraging quitting after they've given me money. And so the thing that I really open this to talk about is I have I have received a lot of donations. From my perspective, a lot of donations from a lot of beautiful people who then I absolutely know and understand and empathize with get tired of hearing me ask for more because they feel like I'm asking them for more every time they see the message. And I just want to, this is an apology, not a, I'm saying I'm sorry and I'm not going to do this anymore. This is an apology in the classic sense of I have to explain to these people and to the future why I can't just because you gave me money, why I can't just never ask again. Because part of this performance, part of the Philalitea, part of the Shaggy, part of the performance, which is living my art, which is being my art, means that you're not the only person who needs to be reminded that good people suffer and need help. You're not the only person who's got $5 jingling around and frankly, I love you, but your $50 isn't the only $50 I need. And when you say things to me like take this and eat it in Taco Bell when you're cold, I'm not going to spend it on anything else because I have I have I have an internal code. I have a personal code that brought me here. That's why I'm still alive at 37 years old when I have known and have really wanted to turn that off since I was 5. I've known that I threw myself out of a tree and should not have survived at 5 and landed safe. And from that moment on, okay, well, your life isn't really yours to live. None of our lives are really ours to live. We have freedom of expression of how we do it, but it's not ours in a meaningful way. We don't get to have it. When it's over, we don't get to tell the story. That's just how that goes. And so in a lot of ways I'm demonstrating that with my journals. I'm journaling and then I'm putting it on Patreon whenever I feel like it, uh, minimum a month later, so that you can see that even narrating your own story in real time, which is what self-talk is, doesn't actually manipulate or control the story. The story is still going to happen, and the best you can do is react to it. And then the best you can do is react to how you reacted. And the best really you can hope for is to remember how you reacted and react accordingly. And so I've kind of pathologized that. That's because my brain doesn't work properly because of head trauma, because of childhood abuse, and then football. And then I was a boy, so boys just hit their heads a lot. So I hit my head a lot. My brain is Swiss cheese. Um, and the weed doesn't help. And I'm not sorry for that. I'm not sorry for either of those things. I had no control over the first, and the other I'm just not going to stop. So cope, I guess. And Josiah, I don't think you're telling me to stop. I also don't think you're telling me to get a job. What I'm telling you is that if I get a job, there's going to be a downtime between getting the job right, getting the job stable, getting the home stable, and even thinking about wanting to use the stability of my life to demonstrate to other people that even at what other people think should be your rock bottom could be the greatest moment of your life, and it could be the moment that your memoirs really climax, and that people really want to be involved in you and what you're doing, and that you can really use that to slingshot to better things. That's what I'm trying to show here. I'm trying to show people that, you give me $10 and I can buy a pack of cigarettes, or you give me $30 and I can buy, 3 dinners or whatever for myself, or you give me $50 and I can buy whatever. Right now I'm trying to save up I'm not trying to save up. I'm trying to justify, uh, in my own mind and in my own heart and in my own budget, buying a rechargeable hand warmer, because it's supposed to warm up a little bit this week, but then it's supposed to get down into the teens again this weekend. So it's just supposed to get and stay cold. The weed helps more than a little; it helps a lot. Um, a lot of artists will tell you that it helps them be creative. It doesn't help me be creative, but I'm a naturally very quiet person. I'm a naturally quiet person. I'm naturally very shy. I was severely abused and bullied as a small child, and so I am quiet. But once I get there's a threshold. Once I hit a certain amount of stoned, I'm the most gregarious, talkative person in the world, because that's my actual personality. And so the weed doesn't just help a little bit. The weed helps a lot. The weed helps to the point that if I am certain that if my therapist were a psychiatrist, and not just a therapist, she would actually prescribe it to me, because we talk about it, and she tells me all the time that I'm allowed to work. Thank you for asking that question, because it allows me to say this. I'm not working for the weed, but the weed allows me to work, and this is work. I show up and I do this, and I think about this, and I write every day, and I think about how can where I'm at. Hi, Miss Holly. I'm in Ohio. I'm in the north central part of Ohio. I'm like 45 minutes to an hour north of Columbus, and Columbus is dead center of the state. Um, I hope you guys don't mind. I can tell that you don't mind already. Um, that my mind herky jerks like that, and now that I'm putting my shoes on, my mind is gonna herky jerk again. Um, but this is work for me, and it's busking. Like, I don't know that everybody knows what busking is. Like, when a bassist or a drummer is just sitting on the street beating on their thing. Yes, I'm not working for the weed, but the weed helps me work. That's what I was trying to say. My therapist tells me that all the time. She's like, "You're allowed to work." She's like, if when you get stoned, it makes you want to work, you're allowed to say, "Hey, I'm almost out of weed. I like working. Please help me buy my weed so I can keep working." She's like, "That's a perfectly ethical thing to ask for. That's not something that I, as a mental health professional even thinks sounds like addict behavior. She's like, that sounds like medicine behavior. And I do try to treat it like medicine. In fact, I try not to smoke at all. I try my very best to only smoke when I know I'm working. So that means when I'm writing. And I woke up this morning, and I don't even usually wake and bake anymore. I used to addict behavior with it because I lived in severe. I don't like to call it that because you're supposed to press charges and you're supposed to sue people when you use the phrase domestic abuse. But I've lived in severe domestic abuse for so long, there's nobody to blame for it but me, right? And my therapist agrees with me, so I just forgive and move on. And that's why I keep hitting forgiveness so hard, is because once you learn my story, you won't push back on me. You'll block me is what happens. Once people really get to know me, they leave because they feel like what I'm doing is I'm competing with them, and I'm trying to say, well, I'm the Tom Brady of suffering. So if you want to say that you suffer at all, the best you can ever hope to be is the Peyton Manning, and nobody wants to be Peyton Manning. I made myself laugh. I hope you guys know anything about football culture because that made me laugh. Uh, but yeah, what I kind of wanted to work my way around to talking about is I want to talk about in a non-defiant way, because I think when I say it in text or when I say it in shorts, I think people hear me being defiant because let's just be real. I am diagnosed with, but do not suffer from, pathological demand avoidance. Don't tell me what to do. It doesn't have to be my idea, but when it's my creative work, it's got to be my idea. If it was your idea, you got to let me find every other way to do it wrong. That's kind of what my Patreon is. That's what my blog was over the course of the last year. I had very strong personalities that liked my work, and I I classify it now, because they're not in my life, as they wanted to kind of take ownership of it in a way that I talk about in the future journals. I haven't published them to Patreon yet, but they kind of wanted to take ownership of it in a boardroom kind of way that absolutely was just not happening. I have a lot of corporate trauma, and that just absolutely was not going to happen. I reacted appropriately, and they did not like how I reacted. So that relationship, professional and personal, ended. Okay, so I know that the video portion of this kind of sucks. I wanted to open this by saying that I don't get a lot of feedback about whether people actually look at the video part or what they would prefer to see, but I am going to stand up now, and you are probably going in my pocket because I don't like doing the OnlyFans version of this, where you get to see me from the ground level because I'm very tall. Upsie daisy. Okay, sorry for that. That was awkward. What we got here? I am the Tim Tebow of suffering. Yeah, you extremely righteous. I like that. See, something something I don't think people really, I ended up doing the OnlyFans version anyway. Something I don't think people really stop to think about. And this is one of the things. I chose homelessness. And the way that I'm living it now. I had people who made big claims about how much money they had access to and what they could do for me. And they wanted me to skip out on my eviction trial. And I thought that was cowardice. I had lived with and fought with her. She told me she wanted to be a better person. That she was an alcoholic, and she had lost control of her self, and she wanted to go back to work. And I told her that I could help, and I could help because we got her sober, I got her I got her we I got her sober from alcohol, and then I turned around and got her sober from a severe lean addiction. If you don't know what lean is, she discovered she didn't know football culture before me, and so I got her into football culture, and I'm interested in football from a different perspective than many people. I love the game and I love all of the drama and all of the everything around it, but I also love the history and the sort of self-help. Let's see. I might want to change the orientation now, but I love the sort of self-help motivational stuff that you can learn by watching football, by seeing these people overcome very real and very serious um, difficulties. And she found scissor. I'm not gonna blame the YouTuber because it's not his fault at all. I'm not even gonna say what YouTuber she was watching that was talking about what it is, but she found lean, she found scissor, and so we had to break her from that too. She had a real problem, and so I just I wasn't gonna run from that. I was gonna, and at the time I called myself the Shaggy Dog Philosopher. So if you're not from the South, you probably don't know what a Shaggy Dog story is, and I don't feel like going into it. But that's why I still call myself Shaggy. It's not only walking up this hill always makes me out of breath. Anyway, if you don't know what a Shaggy Dog story is, it's really kind of irrelevant. It's what I do. It's how I talk. It's the story that doesn't really go anywhere. I promise that I have something I want to talk about, and I never quite get to all of it. But I was a philosopher, and philosophers have a responsibility to lie to you. They have an ethical and a moral responsibility to lie to you. So I did a lot of lying, and I can understand that really hurts some people's feelings, or set some people on uncomfortable ground. But what I wasn't going to do was run from my Socratic trial. So if you go through the channel, you notice that I had a Plato phase. Yeah, people tell you what you want to hear, right? Because they were boardrooming me. They thought they were going to get dividends out of my Patreon and out of my performances. That if they knew me early and they invested early, they would get to cash out and be in the friends that I don't understand. I actually don't know that fantasy because I don't have friends, so I've never fantasized about being like a group of friends who are all like The Hangover, like rich because one of them is rich or whatever. I don't know how that works, or if that's what they were thinking about. I know that there are people that thought that was going to happen, that I was going to make it rich quick and that I was going to elevate them from poverty, because I find that very confusing. My body language is disapproving because I disapprove, but I disapprove. I write about this. Our bodies disapprove when we just don't understand. Our bodies go, well, I'm not doing that. So disapproval is how we kind of teach ourselves not to behave in a kind of way. And so my bafflement, this expression is bafflement, but it looks very much like judgmental disapproval, and I understand that. I grew up in a I grew up in a very judgmental and disapproving household. Let's put it that way. But I've got maybe 7 minutes till I'm at this Panera. I don't know if I said while you guys were listening or not, but I may turn you off when I get in there because it might be packed. Since I don't know if I'm washing myself out in the light either. But anyway, since Black Friday, this Panera has been packed, and that only makes sense. This mall has been packed, and there ain't shit in this mall. So what I wanted to talk. So let's get into what I want. I wanted to talk about empathizing and understanding with the people who donate once or twice and then block me, and don't want me around anymore. And then the people who, in that same category, donate to my cause and then get upset that I keep asking for donations, like I'm saying that theirs wasn't enough, because people apologize. They're like, I'm sorry, this isn't much. And I'm like, $50 is a huge amount of money. Whoop, somebody's beeping at me. Oh, that's cool that you're off the grid. Yeah, that's the confusing thing. I saw you said that, we think we own land, but the government actually owns the land. That's your that's the thing, is since the Civil War, like, yeah, the states and the federal government have to own the land because of, I don't even know how to get into talking about it. It's something that I need to talk about. It's something I like need for my own personal, even spiritual, religious reasons. I need to talk about how cult in the United States has gone absolutely fucking wacky since the 1700s. Just gone absolutely fucking insane, and they're all for some reason Unabomber type cults. All of them. They all truck in guns and explosives to fund what they tell themselves are religious missions, and it's all of them, and I don't understand what that's about. But yeah, we're not allowed to own the land, and so that's why I'm not worried about, like, I'm not doing some eco-terrorist thing where I'm trying to steal this land out from underneath coals. Like, I don't care about that. That's insane. I'm not actually the Johnny Appleseed of the internet. Like, I'm not going around trying to plant trees on everybody's land that they haven't cultivated. That's why I was talking about these other specific people that I've done commentaries on. It's like, you look at their work and I go, well, I could be better if I just had some guidance. Somebody telling me, like, yeah, don't talk about like that, or what. I don't even know what I mean, because don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me how to do it. And don't tell me what not to do. But at the same time, I was talking about how I'm just not a defiant person. I'm actually not a naturally defiant person. People think I have ODD, which stands for Oppositional Defiance Disorder, which is just what bad kids have. That's like, if you know a bad kid who just will not be a good kid, just won't get along to, like, go along to get along, that's called ODD. I don't have that. I don't have that at all. Something people wouldn't believe about me, in fact don't believe about me, outright tell me isn't true about me, is that I'm a reformed Buddhist and a reformed Taoist. Like, I climbed all the way up both of those in my own personal practice, and I found them wanting, and so here I am. And so I always ask at some point, like, so what's the next step? Like, we know Christianity's a dead end, we know atheism is a dead end, we know certain things are dead ends, so what comes next? And that's why I'm homeless. Because I've lived with this absolutely crushing anxiety that everything was going to come falling down and it wasn't going to matter. And how do you convince yourself to defend an apartment complex during a zombie apocalypse? Like, these are the very real kinds of philosophical, like, I can't answer this question type questions I would ask myself not even in the dead, and well, it would be the dead of night from your perspective because I work third shift, but you understand what I'm saying. Not like, didn't keep me awake at night, filled my waking hours with, I can't answer this question. And that, for me, that's why I chose Phil Aliteas. Like, well, okay, there are a lot of questions that I have answered. I'm just going to, yeah, it's packed in there. That would be really rude of me to A, be talking, and B, accidentally picking up on all of these people's conversations. So it's been really awesome to talk to you guys, but I've got maybe 90 seconds, and I don't sign off very well because I'm Midwestern. It's going to take me 45 minutes to say goodbye if I do it right. So what I wanted to say is that I think of this as my job. And I think of what I'm doing not as begging for money, but as selling a product. And everybody who gives me money, I don't know if they've noticed it yet, but I start talking to them, and most of what I start doing is really pushing on them as far as editing and critiquing and reviewing their worldviews, because that's what I'm really good at. And not everybody loves it, but if you're going to give me money and you're not going to tell me what it's for, I'm going to do my work, and my work is that. So I'll do my old sign off. Remember to keep your eyes up and your hands out. You never know what the universe is going to give you. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me for the last 30 minutes or so. That's been a very real and very true blessing. God bless. Take care of yourselves, and you'll see me around. Now I got to figure out how to turn this thing off.